Referencing is a very important topic and you need to be sure about how you're referencing your cells. So there are two types of references, absolute and relative. Absolute means that you are fixing a cell or a range, and that range will not move along as you drag your functions or your sequences. Relative referencing is when you are dragging your functions and the cells are moving around with it. So this is an example of a relative referencing. We are supposed to find the product of x and y. So in this cell we will perform the product function equals to product and then give it the x cell and the y cell, and you will press enter to get the product. Now when you drag this function along, the function is getting dragged along with the cells. This is called relative referencing, as we have been doing previously in all our lectures when we are dragging our functions. This is basically due to relative referencing. You can see that these cells have moved along as you have dragged your formula and they were not fixed. Even when you drag it downwards, you can see that the cells have started shifting downward. Even though the first two were over here, the next two would be over here and the next two would be over here and so on. So this is how relative referencing works. Absolute referencing is when you make one cell fixed. This will happen if I press F4. So when you press F4, you will see these dollar signs appear with your cell name. When you press F4 again, the dollar sign shifts to 4, and when you press F4 again, it shifts with C, and then when you press F4 again, it goes back to relative referencing. So this form, when you have two dollar signs, is called the absolute referencing, when both your rows and columns are fixed. Now when you drag this function with this cell fixed, you can see the effect when I drag it like this over here, and now you select any of these over here, you can see that the y cell has been moving along as you dragged along your function, but the x cell is just fixed over there, it has not moved. Even over here you can see the y cell moved along, but the x cell is fixed over there. The same goes when you drag it down like this. Now when I select any cell, the x cell is completely fixed, it's not moving, but the y cell is moving down as you are dragging your formula down. Let's try to understand this a bit further. You can change how you fix your cells. You can fix your entire cell as we just did, or you can just fix your row or your column. This over here is an example for fixing your rows only. So when you are doing relative referencing and finding products, we will take this example. First you are multiplying x with y. So over here I have selected equals to product and then selected x and selected the next cell y, and I have pressed enter. When I drag this function down, it will give me the multiplication of y and z because both my cells have moved down. So previously you can see it was the blue one was over here x and the red one is over here with y. When I dragged it down, the blue moved to y and the red moved to z. And when I drag it even further, this will give me a multiplication between z and another possible number which could have been over here. So this is because of relative referencing. What if I want the product of x and y and x and z? I cannot get it by dragging it with relative referencing because then it's giving me y and z and not x and z. For this we need to fix our x row. So we will type out a function over here. You will write equals to and then you will select your x cell. Now you need to make the row fixed. What you will do is you will press F4 once. You get $2 signs. This means the entire cell will be fixed, so we don't want that. We just want to fix the row. You will press F4 again. Now you can see that there's a dollar sign with 17, which means your row has been fixed. Now I can put an asterisk over here and select Y and leave it relative. We will not make it absolute. When I press enter, I am getting the product for both of these two. Now when I drag this function down, I will get the X row fixed and the other row is moving accordingly. So now I am getting the product of X and Y and X and Z. And if I had probably an A over here with more values like this, when I would have dragged this even further down, X would have got multiplied with A like this. So you can see X is not moving around, but the second cell, which is relative, is moving around. Now you can drag these vertically and you can select any of these and see how relative referencing worked out versus how absolute referencing worked out. So now you select this and you can see that throughout you dragging it, the X row is fixed, but when you have dragged it horizontally, you can see that the columns are moving. If I would have fixed this cell only, then my multiplication would have been 8 with 1. But since we have not fixed the column is moving, but the row will not change. And you can see the clear difference between this and this. A total absolute reference and a fixed row but a moving column reference. Now the last part for this lecture is the fixed columns. Now for relative referencing, we are multiplying X with Y and then Y with Z. You can see this over here. I have multiplied X with cell Y, and when I drag it to my right, I will get Y multiplied with Z. This is when you are doing relative referencing. And when I drag these sequences down, but what if I want the product of X with Y and then X with Z instead, and not Y and Z over here? This time I will fix my column. I will fix this column, so the column won't change but the rows will. Let's see how this works. Here you will type equals to product, or you can do it the simple way of selecting two cells and putting an asterisk between them. So I have equals to product. I have selected cell X and Y, but now when I select X, you need to press F4 once. You can see $2 signs, then you press F4 twice. The row is fixed, then you press F4 thrice to fix the column instead. Now the dollar sign is with B, which denotes your column. So you know the column is fixed and the row is not. The row does not have a dollar sign with this. And then you leave the next cell completely relative and you press enter. Now when I drag this sequence down, and now you can see the effect that Y is moving alongside and X is also moving in with these rows. When you drag this function horizontally and select this, now you can see that X has not moved around column wise as was happening over here. And when you drag this down, you can again see that your X is being multiplied by Z like this.